Here at the VA, our focus is always on veterans and the nation's military. Before we get started into the exciting program that we have set up for today, I'd like to introduce Ms. Deborah Walker, who is the Acting Director for the Center for Minority Veterans. She serves as the Principal Advisor to the VA Secretary on policies and barriers impacting minority veterans. She joined the Center in June of 2022 after directing the Enterprise Government Management in the Office of Enterprise Integration. Ms. Walker is a dedicated public servant with over 3 decades of experience. Ms. Walker holds a BA in Political Science from Presbyterian College and an MPA from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She was a senior fellow at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy and holds a certificate in Human Resources from George Mason University. Ms. Walker is a proud Army veteran who Ms. Walker brings a lifelong commitment to service and advocacy for all veterans, family members, caregivers, and their survivors. With that, the floor is yours, Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Dwayne, so much. And good afternoon to all of you participating in our program today. This is the Center for Minority Veterans, the first program for the month for Black History Month. And as Dwayne has informed you, it is African Americans and labor, noting that there's been so many contributions to the workforce and the wonderful things we've done in many areas. And it is also my privilege today to introduce the Deputy Chief of Staff for the Department of Veterans Affairs, Ms. Shana Love Holman. Ms. Love Holman serves as the Department of Veterans Affairs Deputy Chief of Staff, where she advises senior leadership on the development and implementation of department-wide policies, programs, and operations. She previously served as the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary and Chief of Staff for the Office of Enterprise Integration, my former home. And prior to joining OEI, Ms. Love Holman was the Chief of Staff for the Office of Acquisition, Logistics, and Construction here in the department. And Ms. Love Holman holds a Bachelor of Science from Lincoln University and a Master of Science from Purdue University. She began her career in 2007 as a program manager at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So a couple things about Ms. Love Holman. She is an 1890 scholar, a Thurgood Marshall Scholar, a graduate of the Federal Executive Institute, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. She also is a recipient of the Gears of Government Award, yay, and proud to be a part of that team. She received the Closing the Circle Award and has also received secretarial commendation. We are just excited to have you participate in our program, and thank you so much. Welcome, Ms. Love Holman, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that kind introduction, Deborah, and good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of our recently sworn in Secretary Doug Collins and the VA leadership team, welcome to today's event. While I'm sorry that we're unable to be together in person, I am really thankful for the quick pivot of the Center for Minority Veterans staff and the support of our presenters today in ensuring that this event was still held virtually. To retired Major General Singh and Ms. Helm-Frazier, thank you both in advance for your service in and out of uniform to our nation, our veterans, and for the remarks that you're going to provide later in the presentation. Black History Month, established by Carter G. Woodson, aims to celebrate and honor the achievements and contributions of African Americans. When Woodson established Negro History Week in 1926, he realized the importance of providing a theme to focus the attention of the public. The intention was never to dictate or limit the exploration of the Black experience, but to bring to the public's attention the important developments that merit emphasis. In 2025, we focus on the role of African Americans in the labor force. This year's theme aims to celebrate and honor those profound contributions, shedding light on how our work, both historically and present day, continues to shape the identity, culture, and economic status of our communities. According to recent data, there are approximately 21 million African Americans in the U.S. labor force, representing roughly 13% of the total workforce. I've been a part of the workforce since I was about 13 years old. The daughter of an Army veteran and retired educator, I learned early the importance of hard work, tenacity, and doing for others. I worked every job from catering to selling shoes, from performing in plays on stage to climbing grain elevators. And for the past 15 years, I've had the privilege to work in the Department of Veterans Affairs under now 6 VA secretaries. And I can honestly say there's no more noble or important mission than serving veterans and the employees that serve veterans. My journey to VA started with my father, an Army soldier and veteran who served this nation during the Vietnam War. As with many Vietnam veterans, when he got out of the Army, he did not believe that VA was for him. My father died before I started working here, but I vowed to make sure that no veteran walking through VA's door would ever feel unwelcomed, nor would their concerns go unheard. African Americans like my father, brother, and uncles have served in every major conflict since the War of 1812. Military service has provided valuable skills, training, and education, leading to successful careers in various fields, and educational opportunities for veterans and their families, which ultimately contribute positively to the labor workforce. Today, VA is providing more care and more benefits to more veterans than ever before. And I'm extremely proud to be part of that journey, although there's a lot more that we can and will continue to do. And now we have the opportunity today, as we've set aside this time, to celebrate the contributions of units and regiments like the Buffalo Soldiers, Tuskegee Airmen, and specifically the 6888 Postal Battalion, and many others who continue to set new standards of excellence. Thank you all for your participation in this important event. It's an honor to be here with you today. And let us take this time of reflection and celebration and allow it to empower us towards a bright and successful future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holman. I'd like to introduce the Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is a significant hymn with lyrics penned by James Wendell Johnson and music composed by his brother. The song was written in the context of African American experience in the late 19th century. The hymn serves as both a prayer of thanksgiving and a call of faithfulness and freedom. Its imagery draws heavily on the biblical Exodus, symbolizing the journey from slavery to the hope of the promised land. The central theme of the song is resilience, faith, and quest for freedom. It resonates deeply within the African American community and has been a source of inspiration during various civil rights movements. The hymn not only focuses on a sense of national Black identity, but also prefigures the Harlem Renaissance, where Johnson played a pivotal role. Feel free to sing along and celebrate as we read history meaning behind this powerful hymn. Lift Every Voice and Sing, sung by the Howard University Gospel Choir. Thank you.
With the Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing that hymn with us. I don't know if it brought you all back to a time where you remember singing that song loud and proud in elementary school or at an assembly, or even just as you were attending an event like today. I'm Carmen Drummond, and I am the Minority Veteran Program Manager here at the Center for Minority Veterans. And I have the honor of introducing Dr. Linda Singh, a true visionary and leader that has made history through her extraordinary service to this country. Dr. Linda Singh is Maryland's first African-American and first woman adjunct general. She is a senior advisor to the governor. She was responsible for the readiness, administration, and training for more than 6,700 members of the military department with an annual budget of more than $314 million. As the adjunct general, she served as the official channel of communication between the governor and the National Guard Bureau and serves as the governor's cabinet member according to her biography. Okay, we'll make sure that you all know that this is documented and this is who Miss Dr. Linda Singh is. Dr. Linda Singh is a longtime Maryland resident where she currently resides with her husband and two daughters. She received her commission in 1991 through Officer Candidate School at the Maryland Military Academy in Reisterstown, Maryland. Her military career spans more than 30 years of service in both the enlisted and officer ranks. She has served in staff and command assignments at every level, including deployed assignments to Kosovo and combat tour in Afghanistan, supporting Operation Enduring Freedom. Her previous military assignments include Commander of the Maryland Army National Guard and Director of the Joint Staff, Maryland National Guard. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to invite today's keynote speaker, Dr. Linda Singh. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Carmen. I really appreciate that. And I want to say hello to everyone. And I am so excited to be here. And I miss being able to see all of you in person because sometimes, it's just nice to be able to connect to folks and just to have that physical connection. But I know that there are a lot of times when we have to step back and really move things in another direction. And I want to say also thank you to the Deputy Chief of Staff, Shana. It's good to see you. And I'm very happy to see that you're on here today. And I can't wait to maybe catch up here in the near future. So today I kind of labeled my presentation, not just to go through my journey, but I really wanted to focus on this thing of service, grit, and leadership. And as we mentioned, I've served a very, very long time. So I'm going to take you just a little bit through that journey. And now I'm kind of on a different journey as a small business owner, which is definitely a different journey. Next slide, please. So there's a few key things that I always get asked, like, what was that defining moment? Like, what made you, either choose the direction that you did, or how was it that you were able to have a successful career on the civilian side and on the military side at the same time? And I think, there's not just one defining choice that I would, really want to focus on. I feel like there were two. The first one is when I made the decision to join the Maryland National Guard at the age of 17. That to me was a very pivotal moment. I was homeless. I was a high school dropout at the time. I didn't know where I was going to get my next meal. And it was just out of sheer luck and fortune. I'd have to say that my path crossed with this National Guard recruiter, and he convinced me to take the ASVAB tests. And if I scored well enough, then I would be able to get a waiver, since I didn't have my high school diploma at that time, to be able to go into the National Guard. And that's what I chose to do. It seemed like the right thing to do, even though I had no thoughts previously of ever going into the military. So that, I would say, was the first pivotal moment. And, in the photos at the one at the bottom, which is kind of interesting, I show my basic training photos, the one at the top right and the one at the bottom left. The one at the bottom left, when you actually see some of the photos of the 6888, it reminds me so much, like it just brings me back to, where I was at a point in time, and I couldn't have been there if it wasn't for women like in the 6888, right? So if we think about just those defining moments. then the next big choice in my career was not only to obviously get my high school diploma, but it was to make the decision to go and get my undergraduate degree, which I had always planned on doing. But in this particular case, I had to work and do that all at the same time. So I happened to be a single parent at that point. I was working, going to school, working multiple jobs. And that gave me the opportunity to, one, go to officer candidate school. So I made a decision about 11 years into my challenging enlisted life. And I say my challenging enlisted life because I'm going to tell you that while I was doing well, I wasn't always the model soldier, because life happens, right? Like I would miss drill because I didn't have a babysitter or I had to work. And so I really wanted to put myself on a different trajectory. And I made the choice to go to officer candidate school. You know, it just seemed like the military was supposed to be part of my life. I enjoyed officer candidate school. I walked away with all the top awards. And that allowed me to really push my civilian career forward, because I was able to get a job leveraging the skills that I had gotten from, going to my basic course. That parlayed over into actually giving me a little boost on the civilian side, where I got into systems implementation and working on programs that were in the defense space, so directly impacting our lives and how we serve. And so that gave me the opportunity to kind of almost parlay a career in the military and a civilian career that, while they didn't look alike, I was able to continue to provide this level of service. And so it allowed me to have this journey that started as a private E1 and to when I retired in 2019 as a major general. Next slide. You know, this thing of managing two careers, I'm not real sure people, if you haven't done it, it is very much of a challenge, because you're not just managing two careers. If you're a mom or a wife, and you're managing all of those aspects. And in many cases, I was also continuing to go to school to try to continue to advance my education. And so I was always wearing at least two hats, if not 3 or 4 hats, in a lot of different times. And, the one thing that really stood out when I started working at a consulting company, a very large consulting company, and then being in the military, they expected me to be very much like I was in the military. And they would counsel me on, you can't come in here and, drop people for push-ups or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you guys just don't get it, right? People just didn't get it. And so there's huge differences between that corporate and military environment, but there's a lot of likenesses. And so, especially from a leadership perspective and a program management perspective, I think that my skills were a lot more advanced than some of my colleagues. And I don't think that they understood where that came from. And so being able to kind of pivot between these two worlds was something that I had to balance my whole life. It was not just a one-time thing. I had to continue to be able to balance that. And what I found is, as I started getting more and more senior, time management, the competing demands, it never stopped. I always had to figure out, where am I going to put my time? How am I going to prioritize? Am I going to prioritize more on that civilian side when, I'm up for, maybe a promotion, or I'm working a really large project and a very important project? Or, am I going to prioritize more time on the National Guard side and the reserve side? Because I actually spent time in the reserves as well. And what I found is that there was no such thing as balance. It was about prioritization. There were times that I was working on programs like DIMERS, when it was, initially around, which is the human resources system for, it was really for all of the Department of Defense at that particular time. Those were very important programs. So it's not like I could just drop that program and not pay attention to what I was doing with my client and only pay attention to my military side, because it was a direct impact. Or even at the time where we were doing the GFEBS implementation and my team was leading that financial management implementation for the Department of the Army, it directly impacted all of my units. And so I had to make sure that I didn't drop one despite the other because they had a direct impact. And so what I found is that I had to be very, very adaptable, and I had to have a level of discipline. I had to manage my time, and I also had to think about, where that priority needed to be. Next slide. And then when I think about just leadership overall, the whole power of choice in leadership, every promotion and every job change was an opportunity. And sometimes not getting a promotion or not getting the job that I wanted was an opportunity. And so you really have to look at trying to think of that next step, wherever it may be, is going to open up some doors. You may not see it at the time, but once you get into it, then you may see, oh, this was really an opportunity for me to learn something different, for me to have a different skill. And the one thing that I always try to remember is that if I would say to other people, I would say to my NCOs, like, if I ever, became a general officer, don't let me forget what it's like to be a soldier's leader, right? Like, I don't want to forget what it's like being at that very bottom level, because I'm going to be making decisions, making choices for other individuals that's going to impact them. I need to remember what that's like. And so I try to stay very, very connected. And I try to ensure that, if I have to make the tough calls, I'm able to make the tough calls, but I also want to be able to ensure that I'm leaving people whole. I want to be able to inspire. And that was one of the things that continued to probably push me forward, is that I had this passion for wanting to inspire others. And that rolled right into my leadership ability of connecting to people, inspiring them, and not just being, a senior leader and walking in and, leaving, kind of this wake behind. When I'm asking people to do things, I want to make sure they're with me. And so it's a matter of, how do I do that? And how do I do that in a manner that I can ensure they're going to support me when I need that? But that all required me to make some sacrifice of my personal time, my family time. I remember when I had my second daughter, I had to go in and actually sign some paperwork because I was a platoon leader at the time. And I took her in with me because I needed to go in and sign paperwork. I was still on maternity leave. What ended up happening that particular day is some of the soldiers took my baby and was gone, and I'm trying to get paperwork done. And I'm like trying to look for, okay, where'd my kid go? Right. Like, I'm just coming in to sign paperwork, and they're just like, she's like our unit's kid, right? Like, she grew up getting to know all of those soldiers. And then it comes with great reward. And when I think about leadership for me and where I stand, is the greatest reward is when I get to see the success of my people. It wasn't, and I'm not going to say I wasn't proud to be able to get the promotions and to move forward, but I felt better when I could see that happen for other people. And so the growth and the ability to really serve and make that impact, that's what made me continue that level of service for 38 years. That's what made me continue. Next slide. And, when you're kind of going through your career, a lot of times people ask me, well, what about your family and how do you do it? And what I tell them is that you have to build your own village. Like, you can't, be out in the world and expect to do everything on your own. You have to build your own village. And one of the things that I always like to take pride of is building a village of people that didn't look like me. Right? I knew that I needed to be able to work in every environment. I needed to work in a very male-dominated field. I needed to work in an environment where you didn't see a lot of African-American females. And then you throw on there, my last name is Singh. That just confused a lot of people, right? So they weren't really sure where I was from, what my background was. And so I had to be able to work in and out of those environments. And it was not just me alone. So if you look at the photo to the right, the gentleman who is sitting in the wheelchair, he was our Adjutant General. He was one of our longest standing Adjutant Generals in the state of Maryland. All of those women standing behind him are women that he helped put where they were in their careers. And when I became the Adjutant General in Maryland, I talked to him every single month. He wrote me handwritten notes to continue to encourage me to make the tough choices, to really think about people and to do the right thing. He inspired me in ways that I had no idea would ever happen. And he actually created a legacy. He wanted us to be able to continue to do that. And until he passed away, he never, ever stopped reaching out to me and supporting me. And then when I look at the team in the middle, that was my leadership team while I was the Adjutant General. On the Army side and the Air Guard side, that was my team. Those individuals, I talk to almost every single one of them still to this day. They reach out to me, they check on me, they prop me up. They were the ones who inspired me to do what I was able to do. And then finally, when you look at the very first photo, that was my leadership team before I left, where we did a groundbreaking all-female leadership team. And yes, it wasn't intentional. I will tell you, it was not intentional that I did that. When I seen that where the selections were coming in and who was going to end up in those spots, they were the best women. They were the best leaders for that particular role at that time. It just so happens that they were all female, but they were the best leaders. And so it gave me the opportunity again to be able to prop up and lift up and create a legacy for those coming behind. Next slide. So some of the lessons that I've learned kind of leading this dual path career, and it's a little weird now because since I'm an entrepreneur or, a business owner and, we're continuing, I've dedicated really the rest of my life is dedicated to supporting public service. And that's important to me. My whole consulting career, all of my clients were the federal government and Department of Defense. That's where my passion is. That's what I love to do. I love to be able to enable our government to be able to do what they do for us. And so when I think about the lessons that I've learned and how do you kind of balance, these demanding careers, it's one, just that time management and, balancing, realizing that there's really no such thing as balance because doing it's just not easy. Sometimes you have to be where your kids need you to be, or you need to be where your spouse needs you to be, or your significant other, or, you may just have to be at a job function, or I may, like in times I've missed birthdays because I was gone on, our annual training, or I might've been in Afghanistan, or I might've been in Kosovo, and these long travels. And so sometimes you're going to miss things. And how do you kind of integrate that back in? The resilience and adaptability. You always have to be thinking about how do you grow and continue to adjust. And while I may be retired on the military side, and I may be running a small business, I'm still learning how to grow and how to shift and how to maneuver in changing environments so that I can do my best, so I can continue to support where I love to support. And that is being able to work with government, being able to support our government agencies in a manner that allows me to feel like I've done something at the end of the day. And then realizing that the service and leadership, it was not about me. None of my journey was about me. All of it was about the impact that I was going to be able to leave for others. All of it was about service to others. It had nothing to do with really me. And then staying committed. I think that, when I look at challenges, when I look at how, things can change and they can just be, so many times we can get so discouraged. I always try to look at, those challenges as being the opportunities and being very relentless and very passionate and not letting it push me away from where I really want to be able to go and the impact that I want to be able to have. And, you're looking at an individual who was homeless was on the street, high school dropout, had no idea what her next meal was going to be, and then rose all the way up through the ranks. So I know what it means to stay committed. I know what it means to stay committed to the cause. Next slide. And then just this whole thing of, the impact of labor. When I think about the 688 and the Tuskegee Airmen, and, we just lost our last Tuskegee Airmen, they will tell you, if they were here, they will tell you that hard work alone isn't enough. It's about strategic choices. You can't just seem that if you're going to put your head down and work hard, that everything's just going to work out. You have to make strategic choices. You have to move the dime forward. Leadership is really about a labor of love and service. You can't be a leader and not have this love for people and love for service. Resilience to me is non-negotiable. That is something that we have to have. We have to be able to take care of ourselves. We have to be able to learn how to bounce back. And you can't bounce back if you don't take care of yourself. And then, we have to be intentional. We have to be relentless. My call sign, the team, my team gave me a call sign when I made general officer, and it was Relentless 6. I still to this day use that. And they said, ma'am, that's the thing that describes you the best. And we want to call you Relentless 6. And so I still to this day will sign off as Relentless 6 because it reminds me that I have to continue to be relentless in my pursuit for being able to inspire the mass. Next slide. And then I just want to be able to share, like, this is my family, right? This is my immediate and extended family. It doesn't even show the other half of my family. So this is a lot on my husband's side of the family. But, we have probably another 60 or 80 that we couldn't have gotten into a photo like this when we're all together. But I think what you have to remember is that, your legacy, your labor is your legacy. That's what you leave behind. And you have to make every effort count. And this particular photo, this was their Christmas gift. So they were wearing these shirts. The shirts were fearless and relentless because we wanted to encourage all of our younger people to be fearless and relentless in everything that they do so that they can thrive. And so that was my theme for the whole family gathering that particular year, is wanting everyone to kind of think about that and continue to push forward and make sure that you make every effort count. Last slide, I think. So that is it. So this is Relentless 6. If you want to be able to reach out, hit me up on LinkedIn. Please send me an email. I have nothing but love for everyone there at Veterans Affairs, especially since I'm an individual that is serviced by your organization. So I want to continue to ensure that you do everything that we need to support all of our veterans every single day. And I want to thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Singh, for that. In my introduction, I failed to mention one very important fact about Dr. Singh. He is recently appointed as the chair of VA's Advisory Committee for Minority Veterans. And as we heard from her keynote today, it served as a testament for resilience, purpose, and the power of showing up despite the odds. It's not just what she's done, it's how she's done it. And hopefully, just like it was for me, this helps make her unforgettable.
Thank you, General Singh. That was very impactful, and inspiring words, and it really takes a village to make it through this society. Gives me great honor to introduce our next speaker, Miss Elizabeth Ann Helm-Frazier. Ms. Frazier joined the United States Army to seek education and job opportunities. Over her 25-year military career, she held various assignments in high-profile positions, showcasing her expertise in personnel and career counseling. Some of her military career highlights include her being the U.S. Army TRADOC Career Counselor of the Year, San Antonio's Mentor of the Year, past president of the Northern Virginia Chapter 33, and the Women's Army Corps Volunteer of the Year at Fort Gordon, Georgia. After retiring from the Army in 2006, Ms. Frazier has continued her service to military women, veterans, and the community activities. One of her many ongoing volunteer commitments is ensuring the legacy of the 6th Postal Battalion, the first and only all African-American Black female deployed to Europe during World War II. Through her efforts, she helped raise funds to build a monument at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, to recognize the 6th exemplary service in World War II. Additionally, she serves as a producer of the critically acclaimed documentary No Mail, Low Morale, which tells the 6th Postal Battalion's story. With that said, I turn it over to Ms. Frazier.
Okay, well, good afternoon. Thank you, Dwayne, for that introduction, but I gotta tell you one, that you forgot to say that I am a Master Sergeant, U.S. Army retired. Thank you. Thank you, Chief of Staff, for your comments. It's always good to see Major Singh, and just thank all of you for attending this Black History program. The 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion motto was no mail, low morale. And if you are a service member, a past service member, you understand that if you don't get any mail, it can be a pretty bad day. Next slide. Have you seen these photos? I will tell you that I saw the photo of Charity Adams inspecting the troops for about 10 years when I was on active duty. And I would always say, well, where is that unit? Because that's the unit that I want to be in, because those women look just like me. It wasn't until about 1991 that when I said it, this guy standing next to me said, oh, I think that's a World War II unit. And so I went and looked in a military encyclopedia book, because it was not internet service yet. And it was a little picture. And under the caption, it said, Major Adams inspecting black wax, mission mail. Next slide. The 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion was a battalion-sized unit. The battalion commander was Major Charity Adams. The battalion XO was Captain Abby Noel Campbell, and then the companies, as you see them listed, headquarters, and then company A, B, C, and D were your postal companies. There are 2 living members, which you will see later on in the slide deck. Next slide. The Parker First is located at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. It is where the 6888 monument is located. All of these monuments were the work, the dedication, the service of U.S. Navy retired Commander Carlton Philpott. As you see there in this Parker First, they are first African Americans in what they did for this country. Brigadier General Grissom is the only white person among this group of African Americans. He was the first commander of the 9th and 10th Buffalo Soldier Regiment. Here in the corner here, you see the 6888 monument. And so we say that the men are in good company now. Next slide. And this was the dedication on 30th of November 2018. The women sitting are the 5 women that attended this dedication from the 688. You see the front of the monument and the back of the monument. On the back of the monument, by state, the 855 women are listed in alphabetical order. Next slide. And this is the moment. This was when everybody was gone, and I kind of had my moment with the monument, and that is me touching the bust of Major Adams. Next slide. You know, Black women were in World War II. The 6888 were not the only Black women in the European theater of operation. There were other women, other Black women. What makes the 6888 different is that they were the only predominantly African-American battalion-sized unit to serve overseas between February 1945 to March of 1946. Next slide. They had two advocates, First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. They were the advocates to advocate for African-American women to come into the military, both as enlisted and officers. A note that in 1942, it was the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, the WAAC, but they did not have official military status. Because of these two advocates, on July 1st of 1943, President Roosevelt signed into law creating the Women's Army Corps, the WAC, and that gave them full rights as a service member. Next slide. These are the two ships that took the women over to England. The first one is the Ile-de-France. It arrived in England. Should I say it was diverted due to threats in the Atlantic, and it arrived in Glasgow, Scotland, February 12th, 1945. And several of the 6888 members that I got to know personally was on the first ship. And then the second ship was the Queen Elizabeth that arrived in April of 1945. Both ships left out of New York Harbor. Next slide. So mail, where was it going? It wasn't going no place, okay? There was a serious backlog of mail. What you're looking at is actual photos of mail. When service members and civilians started complaining that they were not getting any mail to the Adjutant General, the Adjutant General then went to Army leadership and said, hey, something has to be done about this. Let me say this, there were units in the European Theater Command working on the mail, but due to the chaos with the war and supplies and everything else going on, mail took a back seat. Next slide. So what was their mission? The 6888 mission, once they got to Europe, once Charity Adams got over there, open up that envelope and say, okay, mail is what the mission is, they had to come up with a plan. The mail was being flown over to Birmingham Army Airfield at the time, and they were just putting it in aircraft hangars. So I often say to people, think of an aircraft hangar, think of one, and then imagine that aircraft hangar full from the floor to the ceiling, and then times that by 10. Okay? Also, what they had to contend with was this mail was being just stuffed in these aircraft hangars for over 2 years. So when you have mail packages sitting up, what happens? It gets wet, it gets dirty, there's a war going on, so you know what happens. Next slide. And how much mail was it, actually, that they handled? This is Charity Adams' book called One Woman's Army. It is a great book. And in this book, she explains the work that this unit did every day. First, she came up with the strategy to have the unit work 7 days a week, around the clock, 3 shifts. So 3 shifts, each one of those shifts handled 65,000 pieces of mail. Imagine what the post office handles now, okay? That was 195,000 pieces of mail every day. Times it by 9, because the Army leadership gave them 6 months, not because they thought they could do it, it was because they thought they could not do it. And in 90 days, they redirect, process, got to units over 17 million pieces of mail in Birmingham, England. And because Army leadership didn't really believe that they could do that, they sent them to Lyon, France to do the exact same mission. And again, the 6888 reduced the backlog in 3 months. Next slide. This was the commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charity Adams Early. It is amazing. She was an amazing woman. She was born in North Carolina, grew up in South Carolina. She was a preacher's kid, and her mother was a school teacher. Lieutenant Colonel Early was the first African-American woman to graduate as an officer from the WAAC, later the WAC. One of the things that she said, and I quote, when someone asked her about did she think she was doing history at the time that she was in the 6888, her reply was, but you don't think that you're making history when you're actually doing it. You just want to do your job. If given the opportunity, you just want to do your job. She is the only African-American woman, military woman, to have an installation named after her. Next slide. There are 2 living members. Major U.S. Air Force retired Fanny Griffith McClendon. She currently lives in Arizona. She is 104, still lives by herself. And once she left the 6888, she got married and went into the Air Force where her husband was currently stationed in. The youngest of the group is Miss Anna Mae Wilson Roberts. She is 100, lives up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And on March 5th of this year, Mrs. Roberts will celebrate her 101st birthday. Next slide. This is a picture of Mrs. McClendon. She is originally from Louisiana. She did own a glass antique company up until about 2019. Next slide. And this is Mrs. Roberts, and that photo is actually her 100th birthday that we had last year for her. She is originally from the state of Arkansas. Next slide. We will not forget, I've been on the team since January of 2018, and we have lost about 10 of the women since I've been on the team. Next slide. The oldest one was PFC Romay Catherine Johnson Davis. We lost her on June 21st at 2024. She was 104. If you take note of this photo, that is her in the exhibit called Voices. That is a artificial intelligence. She actually did those interviews about 2022, and then came down to the museum in November of 2023 to cut the ribbon on it. And that is me standing in front of the exhibit, getting ready to have a conversation with her because I was unable to make her memorial service back in June. Next slide. This is Mrs. Gladys Dedman Blunt. We lost her on June 22nd of 2024. She was 102. Mrs. Blunt has a road named after her in her hometown of East Orange, New Jersey. Next slide. And this is Mrs. Garcia. PFC Garcia was of Puerto Rican descent. She had medical training, had a medical background, and so she was attached to a medical unit so that she could serve and treat white soldiers during that time. Next slide. This is PFC, Mrs. Maybelle Tanner. I will tell you that Mrs. Campbell was here at VACO at 2019. She was invited by the Center for Minority Veterans and the Center for Women Veterans. She was on that first ship, and that is actually her quote of right here. This is actually her quote, that the boat ties to Europe was so rocky that duffel bags holding our personal belongings were rolled over and over and over and all over the place. That is what she remembers about being on the Ile-de-France. Next slide. And this is PFC Dolores L. Rudock. She is a Washingtonian. She was born and raised in Washington, D.C. She too was here at VACO back in 2019, and she was also on that Ile-de-France ship going over to England. Next slide. This is Miss Elizabeth Barker Johnson. She learned truck driving at Fort Detrick, and she was one of the truck drivers that hauled mail and troops back and forth, a lot of times having to do it at night because the war was going on, and she had to drive with no lights down the roads to transport troops and mail back and forth. Next slide. This is Miss Millie Van Deese. I did not get to meet her. She died in March of 2018. She now has a post office renamed in her honor there in Raleigh, North Carolina. She was the one that told Mr. Philpott to build the monument for the 6888. Next slide. This is Miss Indiana Hunt Martin. Now, Miss Hunt Martin is in that famous photo of Charity Adams inspecting the troops. That is her right there. She was originally from New York State. She also has a post office renamed in her honor, the Indiana Hunt Martin Post Office. Her daughter Janice lives here in Laurel, Maryland. Next slide. There are over 9,000 buried at Normandy in an American cemetery. Of that over 9,000, only 4 of them are women. 1 was a Red Cross worker. Next slide. And the other 3 belong to the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion. They were killed in an automobile accident, and they are buried there at Normandy American Cemetery. We will not forget them. Next slide. So since 2016, when the 6888 came back from their assignment, there was no parade, there was no unit award. They just said, okay, see ya. They gave them a choice. You could stay in the Army, you could transfer to another service, or you can transition out. And a lot of them did stay in. A lot of them did transition out, use their GI Bill to go to school or go back to school. They got married, raised kids, and like many World War II veterans, they didn't talk about their service. A lot of the children said, well, my mom never told me she was in the service, or she just said she was just in the service and that was it. Since 2016, these are some of the awards that they have gotten. Next slide. One of the most recent ones was when President Joe Biden signed on March 14, 2022, Public Law 11797. It is the U.S. Congressional Gold Medal that was awarded to the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion because of their mission of getting the mail, redirecting the mail, and clearing up a backlog over 2 years. Next slide. They also have a scholarship that is managed by the Army Women's Foundation. That scholarship was established by Brigadier General retired Claire Adams-Ender, Colonel retired Edna Cummings, and Master Sergeant retired Elizabeth Helm-Frazier. Next slide. On April 26, 2024, the U.S. Army Women's Museum cut the ribbon on the Courage to Deliver exhibit that is located at Fort Gregg Adams, Virginia. If you get down to the Fort Gregg Adams, please go and check it out. Fort Gregg Adams is the new name for Fort Lee, Virginia. The Adams is Charity Adams. Next slide. Did you see the movie? It was good. It was way better than good. So I have saw it as of today, and actually I have it playing in the background here. I have saw it 22 times, but I'm a little prejudiced. Next slide. This is Corporal Lena Delicott Bell King. This is her story that Tyler Perry depicted in the movie. Mrs. King was born in Georgia, raised in Philadelphia, and she lived in Las Vegas, Nevada. The bottom picture is actually her at 100, December 2023. We lost Mrs. King January 18, 2024, 9 days before her 101st birthday, and we do miss her dearly. Next slide. This is the young lady that is playing Mrs. King, Lena Delicott, in the 6888 movie. And yes, Ebony and Mrs. King did meet. That is actually me in the blue on the set of the 6888 movie. And the top picture here is actually Ebony and Mrs. King. Ebony attended Mrs. King's 100th birthday. Next slide. So I challenge all of you. Can you imagine what these women had to go through, what they had to put up? So I challenge all of you to go out and talk to those older relatives that you may have or neighbors that you may have. Get them to talk about their service. September 16th is Virginia State and National 6888 Day. March 9th is Maryland State 6888 Day. So what can you do? Send a postcard or a letter to someone to let them know that you're thinking about them. What else can you do? Record their history. Everybody got a cell phone. Take photos. Everybody has a cell phone. Go visit the Library of Congress because they have an exhibit of many of the 6888 members interviewed. And that is historic. That will be there. Visit museums. Join a history club. Talk to your local, state, and federal politicians to what you can do. Later on this month, I'm going up to Allentown, New Jersey, because they have a 6888 member that was from Allentown, and they're going to rename a street, and they have petitioned the New Jersey state legislation to have a New Jersey state 6888 Day in her honor. I want to thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for this program. My name is Elizabeth Helm-Frazier, Master Sergeant, U.S. Army retired. Thank you.
Before I turn it over to Ms. Walker for closing remarks, we do have time for one quick question. Liz, do you have time for one quick question?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Liz, first, thank you so much for that wonderful brief. What is the process? Can you share with us how you and your team transformed the story of the 6888 from an unknown tale to one that celebrates these women then receiving the Congressional Gold Medal? Where would somebody who has such a great story start to get somebody recognized?
I would say have a Mr. Philpott, okay? Because it actually was his dream to start with a monument, and a monument can be pretty huge. But I would say something as simple as, like I said, record the history. You know, if you don't ask a World War II veteran about his or her history, they won't tell you because they just won't. That's just how it is. But once you get them to talking about their service, oh, you almost can't shut them up. And then you need to say, okay, well, what do I want to do? I will tell you that the U.S. Congressional Gold Medal is pretty big. It takes a lot of work. But you could start out with something as simple as getting a proclamation from the city or the state. June 4th, 2022 was Corporal Lena Delicott Bell King Day in Las Vegas. And we just petitioned the city of Las Vegas for that day. And we got that day as recognized as her day. Several of the 6888 members have streets named after them. That's a local thing that you can do. All of them, well, 8 of them have interviews at the Library of Congress. They actually have a person that is her job. And I can get the information and send it to you. There are lots of organizations wanting to record and save this history for generations to come. At the state level, you can petition the state for a 6888 day, like Maryland. Maryland's day is March 9th. Governor Moore signed off on that legislation 2 years ago. And then the national day, 6888 National Day, I went to the National Archives and asked a question. How does someone or something get a national day? Because after I saw National Avocado Day, oh, I knew the 6888 could get a day. And then that was the process. The thing is, you've just got to be patient. You got to pack your patience, and you've got to be willing to work at it every day until you get it accomplished. The U.S. Congressional Gold Medal, we started in 2019, and we had it completed with the president's signature on March 14, 2022. It went through 2 administrations, and that was pretty good because it took the Rosie the Riveters 15 years to get their Congressional Gold Medal. It took the Mumfrees Point Marines about 20 years to get theirs.
Thank you, Master
All right.
Sergeant Frazier. I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Deborah Walker to offer the closing remarks for the day's exciting and an excellent program that we shared 2 dynamic speakers. Ms. Walker, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir, and thank you so much, Dwayne. The center just wants to thank each of you for participating in our program today. We saw various experiences that really help us understand, from the younger generation to the more mature, as we grow and end our careers and continue to be a part of the workforce. But I hope today that in listening to these beautiful presentations from Deputy Chief of Staff Love Holman, Dr. Singh, and Ms. Helm-Frazier, these were incredible stories. And I think just for some of you hearing some of the ups and downs, but the tenacity that life has given us to become to fulfill the purpose for which we have been given. And I hope that you take a little nugget somewhere from these presentations and you can share it and apply it in your own life. We thank you for your patience and your flexibility, as we do know that we did have to change our platform for today, but we thank you. And we know that we look forward to you participating in our next event, which will be held on February 26th. And we look forward to sharing that information with you as it is finalized. Again, thank you for your time. And we also want to leave one thought with you before we leave. Please keep in mind those who are impacted by the California wildfires, and also those who have been impacted by the plane crashes here in the United States. So we want to just remember all those impacted. And we thank you again for you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your family service, caregivers, and survivors. And if there's anything you need from the Center for Minority Veterans, we are here to serve you. And again, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.